Hi, I'm Jennifer, and I want to discuss 8 hometown side hustles that were part of the ecosystem of doing an eBay business that were kind of surprises to me. So, back um, before 2008, my only income was really from, a job, from employment. And then, because of the tightening up of the economy, we were open to ideas about making some money on the side. So, what we did is learn to do eBay through a neighbor. And my husband was a collector. He had interest in military collectibles. He also had a lot of different hobbies, like with comic characters and history. So, we had a lot of things that were accumulated in the house. And we started putting it online, and we're blown away with how easy it was, how much money some of those things went for, and I think you could say we were hooked. And so I want to talk about other ways of making money in this realm that you might not be aware of. So, of course, now the first one is eBay, right? Or selling online. There are lots of other, different platforms, and there are different ways to sell online. But starting with eBay, we listed things from our household. But then we also started to go out to our local garage sales and flea markets. And from there, I started to specialize in jewelry. And then I took a course on doing silverware, things where you buy sets and you break it up. So the next one after that is selling locally. That means selling at your own garage sales or selling at your own stall, at a flea market or an antique fair. So what happens when you're out buying? First of all, in the beginning, everything looked like a bargain. So we bought too much stuff that didn't really fit us selling it online. For me, selling online, I wanted it to be efficient and easy. I mean, I was sending out 40 to 50 packages every Monday morning after the weekend, and I preferred small and metal. You put it in a small jewelry box, put it in a bubble envelope, and it's mailed out with its, label attached in less than 5 minutes. Some things had flaws, right? If you bought like a set of silverware, some things were too scratched up or too bent. Sometimes you would buy a flat of silverware and you get all these extra pieces that you don't need. Um, and also sometimes things were too fragile or they had damage that you hadn't seen, like cracks and things. So that's what ends up, you need a way to resell it, and you sell it at a market. Okay, the next one is if you branch out and really make selling at markets your focus. There are so many. I looked it up for my local town right now, the events that were coming up, and there was like a town market, there were military shows, there were rock shows, there were craft fairs, we have the holidays coming. So there are lots of different shows, and pretty much anybody can sell at any show. Not that many shows are super restrictive. Before we started our business, I used to accompany my husband on going to military shows. And of course, I was kind of interested in what he was doing, but I was a little bit bored, right? And there was an older woman who would always be at that show. And she had like Afghans, more things geared toward women, right? Some jewelry, some household things. And she did a lot of business because there were a lot of people like me that went with the other person and weren't really interested in whatever that show was. That's just kind of an example of how you can be at any show and you can do well. Another part of that is if you do community sales, like where we used to live, there was always a Saturday market. And the Saturday market tends to have fruits and vegetables and plants, but there are also people who have, crafts and artwork and all kinds of things, and you can sell there too. And that's a good way to get to know your community too. At these sales, you want to network. You'll meet other sellers that do things similar to you but different. So they're looking for things that maybe you don't want to buy and sell, but if you see it for them, you might want to pick it up. And it's wonderful to get to know people in your community. It's a great way to make new friends, really. Okay, the next one is selling at a fixed location. And that kind of came to mind for larger things. Like there was one person that showed up at the garage sales right in the beginning and always bought all the furniture. They had a thrift store in town, and they did, between $30,000 and $40,000 a month in furniture because, the word got out. They had nice used, secondhand furniture, and a lot of young families would go there first to see what they had. Farm implements or things with motors or things that are larger and bulkier and don't sell as easily online. Some people sell out of storage lockers, like just make an appointment with somebody that wants to pick something up. You can do that out of your own garage. Anyway, I'm sure you could think of some options. Yeah, remember there was that person that during COVID flipped, I think it was couches. I mean, it's amazing the things that you can specialize in. And if it's something that interests you, that sparks joy for you, then go for it because you get to do something you love as well as help others. Number 5 is buying leftovers. Now, this is a way people make money. They go to garage sales at the very end, and when those sellers are exhausted and done for the day, they'll offer to just take it away for them, or they'll offer to buy what's left. It kind of depends on the sellers and what's going on, but it is a great way to just load up your truck and have stuff to sell at a flea market. House cleaning and those people who buy junk, right? Sometimes people do house cleaning, clean out for estates. They clean out for real estate agents if a house is sold and there's things to still disappear. Sometimes also at estate sales, they'll buy out what's left. So it works out well for both parties. And once you have, purchased it or been told to get rid of it, then you have the right to sell it. But if you've done a good job of networking, you found people who are looking for all kinds of different things, right? Cameras, watches, jewelry, military stuff. It's amazing what people specialize in. Postcards, pictures, photos. Just it goes on and on, right? Sometimes, and this kind of goes into the next option, is to be a middle person. So a middle person is someone who buys for someone else. Like I was just thinking, like if it's cameras, there are specialty camera shops that sell, new merchandise, but they also have like a vintage section. But they don't always have time to just go and look for cameras. You can't be everywhere, right? All the time. So if you have that contact that is looking for vintage cameras and you do a house clean out or buy stuff at a garage sale, then you can buy that camera and contact the person with the shop, ask them if that's something they want. Or it could be the other way around. That person at the camera shop says, hey, I know you go out and, we've talked, and I know you go out to estate sales and places, these are the types of cameras I'm looking for. If you pick any of those up, I'd like to buy them from you. I'm hoping something here is resonating with you because there are lots of different options, and maybe you can think of how it would work for what you're interested in. The last one here is contacting local businesses. So I know, like that gentleman I talked to at the flea market, his friend was buying like Amazon returns. Well, also local businesses have things in their stores that are discontinued or just aren't moving. You might contact manufacturers that have extra things on hand and are willing to, sell them to you, or maybe they're just closing out and are saying they have things they want to get rid of. My husband had helped an importer brought in some items for a promotion. There was promotions in different stores, and then when the promotion was done, all the stuff came back to him and he didn't want it. And so, my husband he spent one Saturday. I remember that. It was something he didn't really want to do, right? And then he went out and did it on one Saturday, and he made some money selling this thing. He found a wholesaler that wanted to have it, and then they could sell it on. People have stuff. It would be great if it got recirculated in the economy. It is so much better than having things just go to landfills. I've worked at retail where they do just throw it away, which is kind of scary awful in my opinion. This way we can save things and get some joy out of them and give joy to other people. Just in the grand scheme of things, just think this is a small start. This is something that people have done for millennia, right? There have always been small resellers, but it can lead to something bigger for you. Like if you find, there's so many stories, right, of people who found that one niche, I guess you say niche, of things that they enjoy selling, making, or buying, and find a way to make a bigger business out of it. So if something has sparked an idea for you, let me know. Leave me a comment if you have any questions or something that you're doing. I'd love to hear it. And I guess that's it. So stay positive, and thank you so much for being here today.